of the government plans to cut NHS waiting lists by nearly 500,000 over the next year. Hello there, you're watching the Press Preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the Chief Political Correspondent of The Sun, Jack Elsom, and the Deputy Political Editor of The Guardian, Jessica Elgot. Great to see both of you. So, front pages then, let's start with The Telegraph, shall we? Reporting on the Prime Minister accusing those calling for an inquiry into grooming gangs of jumping on a far-right bandwagon after Elon Musk criticised the government's handling of the issue. The Guardian writes that Starmer has condemned the Tesla boss, suggesting that his lies and misinformation on the problem amplify what he calls poison of the far right. That word poison makes the front page of the Mirror as it focuses on the same story, as does the Metro X Factor spat hits Starmer, their headline. And indeed, the Daily Mail, Starmer's far-right smear on grooming gang critics. The Express's headline reads Starmer's out of touch on rape gang scandal. The Times looks at European leaders turning on Musk for attempting to influence politics beyond the country he is aboded in. The Eye says the NHS will send 2.5 million patients to private healthcare providers to reduce waiting lists. Financial Times leads with Justin Trudeau's resignation as the Canadian Prime Minister's own party turned on him. You want some ice with that? The Star reports on more than 20 people being stranded in Britain's highest pub in North Yorkshire for 3 nights now, as snow alerts are in place across the country. And The Sun has an exclusive on Shirley Ballas, a Strictly Come Dancing judge being stalked for more than 6 years. A reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch our guests. So let's head to Jack and to Jessica. Goodness me, one story taking up a number of those newspapers, aren't they? The Metro calling it an X Factor spat hitting Starmer. It's sweeping people up, isn't it? I know you were at that news conference today with Sir Keir Starmer, where he hit out that the lies and misinformation on this.
Yeah, this was really, I think, the crescendo of what's been building now for a few weeks, which has seen Elon Musk just lob attack after attack at Keir Starmer on a whole manner of things, but chiefly now about his response when he was Chief Public Prosecutor to this grooming gang scandal. Keir Starmer, I think, has had a policy so far of trying not to give these attacks oxygen by not responding, but he felt he had to hit back today. There's been pretty horrible accusations against his safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips. There have been accusations on him personally. So he came out today, defended his record. It obviously means he has been dragged further into the spat with Elon Musk, who will be one of Donald Trump's key officials going into the White House in just a few weeks' time. But I think he felt that there was just no other alternative now than to hit back at this because, you know, his reputation was being trashed online, and he hit back pretty stridently today, accusing Elon Musk of smears and misinformation and lies. And, yeah, it's pretty punchy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even Elon Musk posting earlier, asking if America should liberate the people of Britain from their tyrannical government. Has it gone, you know, so far that Sir Keir Starmer had no option but to, you know, involve himself in this?
I mean, if we take a step back, that is just an extraordinary thing for someone who is a close advisor to the President-elect of the United States to tweet about a sovereign country supposedly with a special relationship with the United States. So, you know, often we think in this political sphere we go through the looking glass, but that truly feels like it is. I think one of the things for Keir Starmer, which meant that he had to respond today, and he has tried to stop giving this oxygen, is the attacks against Jess Phillips, his safeguarding minister, who has worked tirelessly for women and girls in her previous life as well, against domestic violence and victims of sex crimes. And so I think he felt like if he didn't defend her from some of these attacks from Elon Musk, then she would find potentially that her position was intolerable. You know, if your boss is not sticking up for you in those circumstances, that's a really, really, really bad look. So I think that's certainly part of why he felt he had to hit back. But they're in a big dilemma because ultimately government departments, the Prime Minister, they're constantly making the announcements, you know, on X. That they're still using the platform all the time for day-to-day business, and I think that will be the next question.
Whether they pull?
Whether they really feel like they can keep using a platform being run by a man with a vendetta against them.
Well, that would be quite a moment, wouldn't it? I mean, it's already sort of upturned normal relations, you might argue, between the US and UK, given his future role in a Trump government, you know, should he be approved by Congress and so on. Daily Mail, Starmer's far-right smear on grooming gang critics. This is really seeing the divide of the newspapers, isn't it, really, to be fair? You know where their politics lie.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that one thing which let Starmer down in his speech earlier, because he gave a very robust defence as his time as Chief Public Prosecutor, but one thing which I think then sort of overshadowed that in the public discourse following was this attack on Kemi Badenoch, where he said that Tory politicians and politicians are now calling for inquiries because they are jumping on a far-right bandwagon. Now, this was interpreted by a lot of people who do want this inquiry, not just politicians, that they are somehow being lumped in with the far-right because they want this national inquiry. Downing Street afterwards had a bit of a clean-up operation, which they said they were just referring to politicians, Tory politicians, who were in the last administration, who are now calling for this inquiry, whereas when they were in government, they did nothing. But I think it was a bit clumsy the way he framed it, because it was seen on social media afterwards, and I know we sort of talked about, you know, how social media can feed some false information, but it did seem that he was almost implying that anyone who is calling for a national inquiry into what is, he himself admitted, incredibly important issue, which hasn't properly been, you know, maybe tackled in some people's eyes to the full extent that it should have been. He was saying that anyone who's calling for this proper probe now, a full probe that zeroes in just on grooming gangs itself, was sort of, you know, in cahoots with Tommy Robinson. And I think that was where there was a bit of a sticking point.
Yes, including victims and those who worked on it, whistleblowers like Maggie Oliver, for example. But what about the Tories' position on this, given a lot of this happened, you know, during their tenure? Kemi Badenoch, as we know, called for a full national inquiry into the rape gang scandal. Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary, saying the scandal was caused by importing hundreds of thousands of people from alien cultures who possess medieval attitudes towards women. Now, you know, where is he going with that thought?
I think it's quite an extraordinary thing for a Tory politician to say something like that. And that is notwithstanding the fact that there was clearly a very, very serious issue that was going on with these grooming gangs. And but at the same time, I think the way that the Conservative government attitude towards things like the Alexis Jay inquiry into child sexual abuse, that report has sat on the shelf of Tory politicians for many, many years without almost any of the recommendations being actioned in it. And so they are on thin ice, I think, when it comes to proposing solutions now, when, you know, they've had sort of off-the-shelf solutions for it, you know, ready for them to act on, and they haven't. Yeah,
let's look at the contrast with the Mirror. There's the Daily Mail. The Mirror, poison, outrage at billionaires, grooming gang smears. The PM warns far-right lies are putting people in danger. I mean, we're at loggerheads, aren't we, if you look at that front page?
Yeah, what is interesting, though, with this is that while he really sort of tore lumps out of Elon Musk today, a byproduct of Elon Musk's, I think, sort of raising the profile of grooming gangs is that today we did get actual action from the Home Secretary. Right. And so it's weird how, you know, they want to sort of distance themselves from Elon Musk, but he is very influential and has actually seemed to have, in a weird roundabout way, put this back on the agenda and actually inspired some change today.
Yeah, change. Yvette Cooper announcing what exactly then, Jessica? What did we hear?
So she's going to make it a duty for certain professionals who encounter allegations of child sexual abuse to report them. Again, it's one of those sort of quite obvious things you think should be a duty already, but it is only in certain professions. And so that was one of the key demands in this Alexis Jay inquiry into child sexual abuse. It wouldn't just cover grooming gangs, it would cover lots of different instances of kind of predatory behaviour against children. So, but Jack's absolutely right. You know, actually, this is something that really has been pushed under the carpet for years, and perhaps it's in ways a good thing that it's now on the top of the agenda.
Well, interesting how much influence the Musk-Trump partnership could have on UK politics. Nigel Farage, no doubt, nursing his wounds after what Mr Musk said about him yesterday. Yeah. Let's move on, shall we, to across the pond, but a different country. This is Canada. Justin Trudeau stepping down. Now, this is interesting in terms of the politics as well, isn't it, of Canada and what happened with the right there, right of politics.
Yes, because obviously not too long ago, Reform Party in Canada actually managed to sort of subsume the Conservatives, and I think Nigel Farage is seeing that as the playbook for his mission in the UK. Yeah, Trudeau's obviously taken a bit of a beating in the past few years. Cost of living high in Canada, housing crisis, bit of a backlash towards his policies on liberal immigration as well, and that's seen as poll numbers really tank. It means that he's got a bit of a headache with his own party now. lots of infighting there. I think his finance minister quit not too long ago over his policies, and so he's decided to chuck in the towel today before that election later this year.
Yeah, minority government. I mean, what does it mean about Liberal governments, do you think? What are we overall seeing, do you think? Is the Labour government an outlier at the moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not so long ago that President Trudeau was a real inspiration to another political party, which was the Liberal Democrats, because he came from being, the Liberals came from being one of the third party to winning and having this long dominance in Canadian politics. But now, of course, he's looking like he'll lose, very, very badly to his party will lose very, very badly to the Conservatives. And apart from sort of President Macron, we really are seeing a sort of dearth of sort of progressive centre-left political leaders, and Macron, very hamstrung by the parliamentary elections in France. And he's still got another couple of years in power, but he'll have to step aside then because of the presidential term. So Keir Starmer kind of almost stands alone as someone with a really big majority who can kind of potentially be a world leader in things like in progressive issues like climate change. He's going to find himself with very few friends on the world stage and that kind of thing.
Under attack, as we can see, I think, don't you? That's the point. Interesting times we're living in, certainly. Lots more still to come, though, in the next part of our programme, taking a look at the weather as well. After 23 punters get stuck at a pub in North Yorkshire, the Daily Star asks, you want some ice with that? Back in a moment.
Once almost lost, these denizens of the deep are back.
The problem for these whales is global warming. Water temperatures are rising.
We're worried that the animals are actually starting to starve.
Deadly and outdated. What do you think should happen to the nets?
I would like to see them go.
I'm Nicole Johnston, Sky's Asia correspondent, based here in Beijing.
A towering monument to the China dream and its demise.
From one end of this country to the other, China is littered with real estate that's falling apart.
China is facing a tsunami of the elderly.
We have to work as long as health allows, otherwise, no money.
China is under pressure to pay for the pensions of 500 million retirees. I've reported on a wide range of stories from around the world.
Mass protests forced the president to flee.
The sight of the president's private swimming pool only reinforces to Sri Lankans the great divide here between rich and poor.
Aid groups say Gaza is now the world's most dangerous place to be a child.
The Israeli army has raided towns and villages all over the West Bank. These tunnels run all over Gaza. The Gaza Strip is ridden with them.
The referendum designed to unite the country has only deepened its divide.
Sydney's floodplains underwater again.
This is the third or fourth time in the 18 months that their homes have gone under.
Sky News, the full story first.
It may seem like a gimmicky toy, but it is part of the global race between the United States and China for new technology. This elite engineering designed to humour and to help us.
We're rolling.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Well, let's just bring you some breaking news concerning Donald Trump and the hush money trial. You might remember it, based in New York. We had heard from the judge at the back end of last week that Donald Trump would be sentenced this Friday. Donald Trump appealed, and we've just heard, in fact, that the judge has refused the postponement so that Donald Trump could appeal that case. So there will be sentencing of Donald Trump on 34 counts found against him this Friday. Full coverage, of course, on Sky News of that. Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, the Chief Political Correspondent of The Sun, Jack Elsom, and the Deputy Political Editor of The Guardian, Jessica Elgot. Welcome back to both of you. Let's head to The Star, shall we? Straight to that, which is, you want some ice with that. This is the Tan Hill Inn, said to be the highest in England, I think it is, isn't it? And the whole point is, as you know, because you've got a correspondent in there, they can't get out.
Yes, so our northern correspondent, Robin, she went there to sort of interview people who potentially thought this was a possibility during the snow-in. Anyway, she went there to interview people, and she's been there for 3 days. Probably the best assignment that she's ever had, to be stuck in a pub for 3 days. I don't know if she thought it would be that long, but apparently she says that the pub keeps enough food in for a month. So they are well stocked. She's been having Yorkshire puddings and pies and drinking
We're in the wrong
pints.
job, aren't we?
We certainly are in the
pub
wrong
correspondent.
job. I think the worry is if they run out of alcohol, but apparently food as well.
Yeah, well, we spoke to them a little earlier on today. They're all getting along. They've got an Australian in there as well who built his first snowman, thoroughly enjoying the...
Are they all drunk?
The British snow. Not fully,
Presumably
I
you
think.
start drinking at about 8,
I think
9
they're
o'clock
having, they're having a
snowed in
fine
for 3
time.
days.
Unlike everybody who's trying to get to work or to school today, multiple school closures, because it has caused a huge amount of disruption, hasn't it, this weather?
Yeah, it has actually. In fact, there's a story in the front page of the Telegraph showing just how sort of, the widespread effect it's having on trains, for example, and not just because, the snow gets in front of the trains and they can't run, but according to the Telegraph, train services were cancelled over the weekend because trade unions told their drivers not to walk on the snow. This was a service from Liverpool in which ASLEF drivers were instructed by their health and safety officials at their union that because of the walkway from the platform to the trains were not gritted, they weren't allowed to actually get into their carriages.
Might have been very icy.
It might have been very icy, but everyone else has to walk on snow, don't they, when they get to work? Not everyone has, gritters that go outside their front door, it just seems, a bit snowflakery, maybe, to use sort of a pun, that they wouldn't walk on snow to be able to get to their train.
And what did the union
thousands of journeys were disrupted because of it.
And what did the union have to say?
The union issued a very pithy quote to the Daily Telegraph in which they said this is basic safety stuff. And so clearly they are, defending their position, although I think that most right-minded people and frustrated passengers might be a bit peeved with this.
Jessica, let's go to the inside pages of the Metro, shall we? This is the Treasury Minister, Tulip Siddiq, who has, we learnt today, referred herself to the ethics czar for MPs. Looks like she's also been dropped from a foreign trip as well. So what is the story about her and what happens next?
Yeah, Tulip Siddiq, who's the City Minister, was supposed to be accompanying Rachel Reeves on this incredibly important trip that she's taking to Beijing, which had a sort of financial services bent. Now, she's not going now, and she's, in fact, doing something deeply uncomfortable, which is answering questions from Sir Laurie Magnus, who's the Prime Minister's ethics advisor. She's very insistent she's done nothing wrong, but she has a lot of questions to answer about these London properties that she's apparently been gifted or been renting from various political allies of her aunt, who used to be the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, the now ousted Prime Minister of Bangladesh. It's all the more uncomfortable. And like I say, she says she hasn't done anything wrong by this because she's in charge of corruption and she's in charge of, making sure that the financial markets operate fairly. So, she's been quite a close ally of Keir Starmer. She's his constituency neighbour in Hampstead and Kilburn. So, this is all a bit of an awkward one for the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, lots of questions building up over this, and you can just see that this story is going to run and run and run because in the papers over the weekend there was sort of more of a drip feed of stuff which came through to the surface with this. And this story's been running for 3 years now. And even at the time, Tulip Siddiq denied the journalist that this was gifted to her. And that's obviously transpired not to be true now. So Keir Starmer did the inquiry, so we can now sort of kick it into the long grass.
Jack, Jessica, lovely to see you both. Thank you. More from them in the 11. Here's the forecast, though. The weekend's disruptive rain and snow has ended, leaving us in a northerly flow which will last all week, bringing wintry showers and extensive frosts. A frost for most at first tomorrow, severe in parts of the north, wintry showers and icy stretches likely. The morning will bring sunny spells, wintry showers, showers concentrated in the north and west. Snow looks like being largely confined to hills above 200 metres. Cold, breezy, coastal gales in the northeast. Won't be as windy as today. Well, our press preview continues at 11. We'll have more on that weather, bringing floods, snowdrifts to parts of the UK as one severe flooding comes into force tonight.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised. If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
I'm James Matthews and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump, it would appear, is about to learn his fate. There's no doubting the strength of this hurricane as it roars through. Sky News, get the full story first. Do you fear a fourth indictment?
He's from Sky News. He's from Sky News. He's entitled to